So what is the true reason that the book of Enoch was excluded from the Bible? We first have to understand what happened after the destruction of the temple. The reason that the book of Enoch was found in the Dead Sea Scrolls is because it was preserved by the Essenes, a monastic Jewish group that existed during the temple era, and who were completely eradicated afterwards, after the destruction of the temple. But they preserved the book of Enoch because they're from the time or community of Jews that existed before the destruction of the temple. What happened after the temple was destroyed in 70 AD explains the reason that the book of Enoch was excluded from the Bible. So when the temple was destroyed in 70 AD, the Pharisees, or like the rabbis, had to relocate to a different place. They were in Jerusalem, but because of the Roman attack, the Jewish leadership fled from Jerusalem and relocated to a place called Yavne. And in Yavne, knowing that the temple was destroyed, the leadership had to reorganize everything. And in short, the major rabbis at Yavne debated among themselves which books to preserve. Yohanan, Eliezer, Yehoshua, Akiva, Gamliel II, and others. The rabbis debated among themselves and formed the Jewish canon. They were operating on the premise that formal divine prophecy, Ruach HaKodesh, was not present after the generation of Ezra, Nehemiah, and Malachi. That's in the 4th century BC. So they operated on the premise that books that were not theologically aligned, or the ones that were written afterwards, after the 4th century BC, were not included. So that's why Maccabees, Sirach, and the book of Enoch and others were not included, because they were written in the Second Temple, during the Second Temple era, after the 4th century, or after the generations of Ezra, Nehemiah, and Malachi. That's also why the Hebrew Bible as we know it does not have books like Maccabees, Enoch, Sirach, and others. But before the destruction of the temple, these books were part of the biblical corpus before the destruction of the temple. That's why in the times of the apostles and Jesus and Second Temple era Jews, before the destruction of the temple, the book of Enoch, the 3 books of Maccabees, and other books like the book of Baruch were part of the canon. And after that, amongst the Christians, when the church fathers debated among themselves, just as the rabbis did, about which books to keep in the canon, they kept the books that were in the Septuagint, but they did not include the book of Enoch and the book of Jubilees because of skepticism. Even though the apostles such as Jude, Yehuda, quoted verbatim passages found in the book of Enoch, highlighting the prophetic authority of the book of Enoch, they were skeptical about its authenticity, and therefore they put it aside, even though they never considered it to be a false book. But meanwhile, the Ethiopian Jews and Ethiopian Orthodox Christians preserved the book of Enoch and the book of Jubilees in their biblical canon. One, because they did not participate in these debates, and they were in isolation, and they had these Jewish scriptures and practices that existed prior and during the complete divergence between Judaism and Christianity.